On today's edition of the Commanders Report, wide receiver Terry McLaurin is dealing with a quad injury. We got some bad news on the injury front from him today from ESPN's Adam Schefter. We'll talk about that at the top of today's show. Then we'll get into some film takeaways. I've had the opportunity to watch the All-22 of Commanders versus Raiders. Came away with some new takeaways to share with you guys. Make sure you stick around to the end of today's show to see my thoughts on the Commanders in Week 3. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already before we dive into the content today. We got daily Commanders videos for free on this channel. We go in-depth on the news and rumors of the day surrounding the burgundy and gold. We also have breaking news coverage every time the Commanders make a big move, especially if they make a big trade before the trade deadline. Weekly live shows. We're going to be going live on Thursday this week, guys. So if you want to join us, it'll be 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. It's all 100% free, guys. So help us get to that 50,000 subscriber mark. We are the fastest growing Commanders channel anywhere on YouTube. So join the thousands of people joining the family today by clicking that subscribe button today. So now we got ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting that Terry McLaurin is quote-unquote uncertain to play this week versus the Atlanta Falcons with a quad injury. And, of course, this is kind of a little bit of deja vu to last week because we got the report early in the week that Jaden Daniels was uncertain. I think that was exactly the same wording. That he was uncertain to play last week versus the Raiders, and of course he ends up sitting out. And of course we know if Terry McLaurin is not on this team, it's not looking good for the Commanders' wide receiver core. Adam Schefter reported it earlier today, saying Washington wide receiver Terry McLaurin is uncertain to play Sunday versus Atlanta due to his quad injury. Per source, he still is seeking more information about the injury, and there's been a bunch of reports coming out after this saying that he's getting a second opinion, and he's coming up with a plan of action to attack this quad injury in the days and weeks to come. Head coach Dan Quinn addressed the media yesterday, and he said in his press conference yesterday that he should have more answers tomorrow on Wednesday. So we'll keep you guys updated on all the latest injury updates on tomorrow's show when Coach Q takes the podium yet again tomorrow. But, I think that this team, if they don't have Terry McLaurin, it certainly sounds like they will maybe not have him this week for at least this week. And this team, and I think this offense could be in a lot of trouble if he has to miss time because I think that's going to allow these defenses that the Commanders play to really pin their ears back, play very aggressively, play a lot of man coverage because let's be honest, guys, with Terry McLaurin and also Noah Brown dealing with an injury right now, there's not a whole lot of people in this wide receiver room that scare you in terms of one-on-one man coverage. Deebo Samuel's not a separator. Zach Ertz is not a separator. Those guys are good with what they do within the Commanders' offense, but like if a team lines up man-to-man and your three receivers are Deebo Samuel, Luke McCaffrey, and Jalen Lane, that could create some real big problems for whoever's quarterbacking this team, for Cliff Kingsbury, in terms of scheming guys open. Terry McLaurin draws a lot of attention in this Commanders passing attack, and without him on the field, I think we see a drastically different product than the offense that we saw put up over 40 points against the Las Vegas Raiders here in Week 3. And especially if you're going to be missing multiple weeks or whatever the plan is going to be for Terry to miss time here, if he misses time, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this team brings in another wide receiver. There are still some decent options that are out there for the Commanders to consider. Diontae Johnson, Odell Beckham Jr., Robert Woods, Nelson Aguilar, and DJ Chark are the top 5 names of veterans that are still out there in free agency that the Commanders can pick up as veteran options. And out of those 5 guys, and I've actually talked about this on the show before and I've mentioned his name, but I would think about bringing in Diontae Johnson. I really would. I think that he would be exactly what this Commanders wide receiver core is kind of missing as like a true route running threat in this offense. And you look at his adjusted stats based on his start with the Carolina Panthers last year. All right, if you adjust it for an entire 17-game schedule, this is what you get. You get about 68, 69 catches. You get around 860 yards receiving. You have over a first down per catch, and you would end up with close to 7 touchdowns on the year. That looks like a legitimate number 2 receiver in this league to me, guys. And that's what he was before he got traded and, before he started bouncing around the league, and he hasn't really been able to stick anywhere since and ended up getting released by the Cleveland Browns of all teams in the preseason. But you guys can take a look at his recent career stats, and he put up over 1,000 yards in Pittsburgh in 2021. All right, he had 8 touchdowns that year, and he very consistently after that was putting up numbers conducive of a number 2 wide receiver, which is what I think he is at this point in his career. Now he's certainly bounced around. Last year he had a pretty decent start to the year in Carolina and then really dropped off at his various different places to finish the 2024 campaign. Ends up going to Cleveland, ends up getting cut, and he still hasn't been brought back since. There's been some behavior issues. There's been some stuff like that in locker rooms. That's reportedly why the Steelers ended up trading him to Carolina in the first place, is because of some locker room stuff. And maybe the Commanders don't want to deal with that. But I think if DJ is going to go into any culture and thrive, it would be in Dan Quinn's culture here in Washington. And I think that DJ could be a potential steal for this team. You got Terry McLaurin as the legit number 1 alpha type wide receiver. Whenever he gets back, he gets back. Diontae Johnson has been a number 1 receiver in this league before, and he can be that interim guy while Terry's out. And then when Terry's back, he can be that route running presence on the other side of Terry McLaurin to draw away double team help away from Scary Terry, and also open other things up for guys like Zach Ertz and Deebo Samuel, who are better against zone coverage with their lack of ability to separate. You put Diontae Johnson out there, who teams do not want to play man coverage against, and they start playing more zone. That's going to open up some opportunities for guys like Zach Ertz to be his best self, Deebo Samuel to be his best self. And I just think that this could be the missing piece that really takes this wide receiver room to the next level. So if I'm the Commanders, I'm at least giving Diontae a call, bringing him in for a workout. I think that this is something that is certainly worth at least exploring. And if it's not going to work personality-wise, whatever, but I definitely think that he would be a good fit here, and I think that this could work out if the Commanders decide to pursue this opportunity. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Should the Washington Commanders bring in another wide receiver to pair with Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, and others? If so, which one? Do you think Diontae Johnson's a good idea? Would you rather go out and get OBJ? Was there somebody else that you would rather go out and get? Let me know down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. Just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our friends at Omaha Steaks. And while I'm talking about our sponsor today, let me know down there in the comment section if the Commanders should get a receiver, and if so, which one? And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here today at Omaha Steaks. And from handcrafted steaks to delicious fall favorites, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience. Enjoy USDA-certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, cozy and convenient comfort meals, plus tailgating favorites like chicken wings, smash burgers, and big deli-style franks. And now during their Red Hot sale, you can get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $35 off with promo code NFLDaily at checkout today. Cassie and I love making Omaha steak. We have steak at least 2 to 3 times a day. I'm actually going to be going home and making steak tonight for Cassie and I. And, you know, with the great prices that you guys get with Omaha Steaks, you guys get the 50% off discount using their website, but you also get $35 off by using our code NFL Daily. It's absolutely fantastic stuff, guys. You get really premium quality meat at a fantastic price. You're not going to want to miss this deal right now, guys. Get fired up for fall grilling with Omaha Steaks today. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Red Hot sale event, and for an extra $35 off. Again, guys, 50% off plus an additional $35 off when you use promo code NFL Daily at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code NFL Daily at checkout. See site for details. A big thank you to Omaha Steaks for sponsoring today's edition of the Commanders Report. So now let's get into my film takeaways from Commanders versus Raiders. And obviously most of the takeaways that I had this week were very positive. I thought that the Commanders took another step forward as a football team. Now, obviously the Raiders are a team that's probably a bottom 10 football team in the league right now. They got a new head coach, a new quarterback, still figuring out a lot of stuff there in Vegas. But Washington, even with a backup quarterback, did a lot of things well on tape. Now, the one negative, or one of the negatives that I'll bring up here, is I would probably replace Matt Gay. It was another kind of tough day at the office for Matt. He missed another field goal. He had a kickoff out of bounds. He had a couple really bad kicks in this football game yet again. Now that's multiple weeks in a row. You can kind of tell that it's starting to get to his head. He's only 3 of 6 on field goal attempts so far this year. That's not good enough. All right, and if he has another poor performance this upcoming week versus Atlanta, I just don't know how this team can continue to roll with him. But he certainly has the leg to get it there, 50-plus yards. He's just not very consistent And that's definitely what concerns me. And, he's missing from all lengths as well. So hopefully he can get better. He has been nails when it comes to the extra points, so at least he's not biffing those. But the field goal attempts have been pretty rough to start this season for Matt Gay. Some options that they could look at. Actually, I think Austin Seibert retired, and then Younghoe Koo actually signed with the New York Giants today. We don't have Koo listed on there, but that's another option that they could have went and got. You also got a bunch of other options on there. I don't think Justin Tucker, any team is going to be bringing him in after what he's going through right now. But you had Zane Gonzalez last year, who was pretty solid. He's still available. I would really consider bringing back Zane Gonzalez, guys, at this point, especially if Gay continues to prove that he just doesn't have the leg, or the accuracy, I should say, to be able to get these kicks between the uprights. But now we can move towards more of the positivity here, starting with Marshon Lattimore, who I thought had a major bounce-back week. He was really, really good in coverage, and he only allowed one catch, I think, for like 12 yards. Versus the Raiders, he didn't have the same penalty issues as he has had in the previous few weeks. He certainly had a bounce-back week versus the Raiders, but he's going to have to prove that he can be consistent. All right, he's only had one good performance in 3 games to this point. I don't like that 33.3% hit rate at this point, but it's certainly nice to see that his latest performance was his best one, and it seems like he's settling into the year. So definitely keep your eye on Marshon Lattimore in future weeks. But I think the team's best cornerback right now, guys, is actually rookie Trey Amos, and I think he should be getting the number 1 assignments week in and week out. All right, like he in coverage, man, he is just so sticky. He hasn't really allowed all that much. His PFF grade is by far the highest in this cornerback room. Not that PFF grading is gospel. We say that all the time on this show, but certainly a tool. And I think that it's backed up by the film. Trey Amos on film, definitely the best cover corner on this football team right now, and I think he's going to be a mainstay in this defense for many years to come. And if you're asking Marshon Lattimore to be more of a number 2 corner than a number 1 corner this year, I think that is absolutely massive. So if Trey Amos continues his stellar play, of course he's dealing with a little bit of an injury right now, had to leave the game versus the Raiders. We'll see what his status is tomorrow when Dan Quinn gives us some more updates, but certainly it's good to have a player of this caliber this early into his career playing as well as he is. Then we get to Mike Sainristil, who unfortunately continues to struggle, and he was kind of the poor spot in this defense. Trey Tucker had a hell of a game. I think he had over 140 yards receiving, multiple touchdowns, and most of those came with Sainristil in coverage. Gave up a lot of big plays, and through 3 games, Sainristil has a 45.3 PFF grade through 3 weeks. Now, like we've said, PFF grading is not gospel, all right? You have to watch the film and kind of confirm it for yourself, because sometimes these grades can be kind of wonky, but I kind of agree with PFF on his grading here. He has not looked good in coverage. In fact, he's looked a lot worse in the slot, which is where he played in college and was one of the best slot corners in the country with the Michigan Wolverines. And he played pretty well on the outside for the Commanders last year, but like at the beginning of his season last year, he didn't play great in the slot, and he played better when he went outside. And I think it might be kind of the same deal here in Washington. Like, I think maybe his future is as a number 2 corner on the outside, with Trey Amos being your number 1 guy. I think that might be his future, because I think that he's just better on the outside. But Frozone has certainly not had the best start to his sophomore season. He made a couple decent tackles versus the Raiders. That's nice, but in coverage, he's really struggled. Really hoping he can figure it out in the weeks to come. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Concern level for Mike Sainristil at this point. Put it on a scale of 1, meaning not worried, he's going to be just fine, to 10, meaning this guy stinks, he might be a bust. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments. All right, so now we move on to the offensive side of the ball, and there's a lot of positivity on this side of the ball, guys. I thought it was Connerly's best game yet. Now, he did have some lapses. Of course, when you go up against Max Crosby, you're going to take your L's. He's just an awesome football player. But, Connerly, I thought his footwork and his balance was a lot better this week than it was in the first 2 weeks. You can make an argument Max Crosby is better than either Brian Burns or Micah Parsons, the 2 guys he faced in the first 2 weeks. And he played his best game against Max Crosby, who's an absolute disruptive force in that Raiders defense. Now, it's also the case that, the surrounding cast around Crosby is not as good as the Giants had or the Packers had, so maybe Connerly was able to get a little bit more help from his supporting cast with chips and double teams and stuff like that. But I will say, this was Connerly's best game, and he's moving around better. He's getting better week by week. and I'm hoping that he can continue that trend throughout his rookie season. And then I also got to say, man, what an upgrade at the offensive guard positions. Not just one, but both. All right, Chris Paul and Andrew Wiley were really, really good in this football game. Now, to be fair, the interior defensive line for the Raiders is terrible. All right, after they lost Christian Wilkins, they already didn't have great depth at that position, and now they're playing two kind of replacement level, backup level defensive tackles. But hey, they did their job. They were moving the line of scrimmage in the run game. They were protecting Marcus Mariota extremely well. I think Andrew Wiley at this point in his career might even be a starting level guard. So to have another starting level guard on this football team is terrific. And that's not even counting when Sam Cosmi is going to be back here in probably just a few weeks from now. And then Chris Paul is kind of a stopgap at left guard for now. He looked really good too. Now, when they go up against tougher competition, more legitimate three techniques that can actually pressure the quarterback up the middle, we're going to figure out just how good this interior offensive line is. But when you got Laramie Tunsil, maybe the best pass-protecting left tackle in football, you got a really solid interior offensive line like they showed on film this week, and then Josh Connolly Jr., who's continuously getting better. This is an offensive line I can rock with, man. And this is the best I've felt about this offensive line here in Washington in quite some time, honestly. It's not perfect, but it's certainly getting there. Then we get to some of the stuff about the wide receivers here, guys. I thought we saw some promising stuff from Luke McCaffrey, some good routes run. Of course, he picked up a touchdown. He's somebody that if Terry McLaurin is out for this week or multiple weeks and they don't bring in another receiver, this team's going to be relying on him to step up and prove that he can be a starting caliber wide receiver in this league. We'll see if he's able to step up in that regard, but he did show some good stuff last week. Then we get to the fact that there's just too many drops in this wide receiver room right now, in my opinion. Terry had one again this week. We had Jalen Lane drop a touchdown pass. Debo had a drop as well. And those were kind of the only times where the ball was really hitting the ground for Marcus Mariota, who played a really damn good football game and got the ball where it needed to go almost every single time he threw it. So I think that, I think this is just indicative on the status of this wide receiver room right now. I think Terry McLaurin is an awesome player, and he's gotten better as the weeks have gone on here. And I think eventually we're going to see that first team, that all-pro caliber player that we're used to seeing from Terry McLaurin by the time we get to mid-season and going down the stretch towards the postseason. I think Debo Samuel has a very specific niche role in this offense that he plays extremely well. But right now, I don't know if they have a legitimate third receiving presence outside of Zach Ertz, who's not a separator. He's more of a contested catch guy, a savvy route runner versus zone. He's not somebody that's going to create a ton of separation. So like we talked about earlier in the show, talking about Diontae Johnson and maybe this team's need for another receiver, I think if they can add one more good route running piece to this group, it's really going to all fall into place. Could that be Luke McCaffrey? Could that be Jalen Lane? Maybe. He spent pretty high draft picks on those guys. You hope that one of them can step up in the weeks to come. But certainly Terry McLaurin's injury at this point is concerning. So predict it for me down there in the comments section. Will Washington sign or trade for another starting wide receiver before the trade deadline? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. I certainly think it's possible at this point, guys, but predict it for me down there in the comments. That'll be it for today's edition of Commanders News and Rumors. Tomorrow, our plan is to have the preview for Commanders versus Falcons come out tomorrow once we get the new injury updates from Coach Quinn. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button because we've got in-depth previews for every single Commanders game. We're also going to be going live for a live watch party on Sunday for the Falcons game. And then also we'll have extensive post-game coverage just like we do every single week here on the Commanders Report. So for the latest Commanders updates, make sure you click that subscribe button. Until next time, guys, go raise them hell.